Hello, everybody. I'm Jan Dvorak, aka Storyteller, and today I have the other Jan, Jan Kuster, also known as J Kuster or Jan Kapunkt, will be your host for today's special show, our first in the deep dive series for Meteor 3.0. Today we are starting with an overview of what Meteor 3.0 is all about and what does that mean for everybody. So let's just quickly jump here to our, let's say, presentation that we made a little bit. Let me grab some things that shouldn't be there out. So here is a quick overview of what we'll be talking about. We have actually 3 slides of just information of kind of overview. We'll be spending some time on each section, answering any question that you might have, and then move on to the next section. We are planning to do more of these deep dives. So in the future, except actual deep dives, it's kind of misnamed today. It's like the deep dive, but we are actually just scratching the surface, because the idea here is we introduce the topics, the issues that we know of so far, and then in the future episode, we really go into the nitty-gritty, so that for you can at least kind of create your mental picture of what this means for your package, for your applications, for your business, and so that you can kind of start moving towards it, because Meteor 3.0 is moving forward and it's going to stay here, and you will have to update sooner or later. Just one more technical before we start. Jan is going to have to perform his dad duties like a little bit into the stream, so once he disappears to do that, we'll have probably more time to answer questions on that, or it will be hopefully my segment to talk about. So then let's look on what we have. So let's go onto the background of why the heck do we need Meteor 3? Why do we need a major version upgrade? What's all behind this?
Yes. So the magic behind Meteor, especially in the early times, was like this revolutionary thing of implementing some async behavior at the time when Node.js wasn't even able to execute async in a way we know it today. And it was made possible by Fibers, which is an implementation of coroutines. That is, coroutines is some kind of async programming paradigm. And that was one of the earliest things that made it possible to have this great non-blocking async behavior on the server. And that was part of this Meteor magic, because it made us, it allowed us to do calls, for example, to MongoDB collections without passing a callback, but writing sync style code. And it just felt magically that this all worked out. And then Node 16 came out, and that had major breaking changes, where basically any support for Fibers got dropped, and it was also not be able to provide workarounds, and the workarounds would not be worth the effort. And basically everyone in the JavaScript ecosystem is moving or has been moving to native async await or native promises. And this is why Meteor also moved on and did this big change. So that's the whole issue why this is happening. Yes. Giving back to you, Jan, to the next background.
That's kind of like the main reason why this is happening. And the biggest issue, of course, is because Fibers is everywhere in Meteor. That's, I would say, one of the, if not the main issue why this was such a big deal. because it's just it's pretty much the main thing that makes the Meteor magical. It's synchronicity, optimistic updates, all that stuff. So that's one thing, and of course, since Fibers is dropping, it's also dropping from other packages, and everybody is moving towards async await and away from Fibers, including compatibility with Fibers, which means, for example, MongoDB 7 is no longer compatible with Fibers. So we actually need, if we want to, once we want to upgrade to the latest Node driver to have MongoDB version 7 support, we need to get onto the latest node and drop Fibers. So it's starting to affect us in other ways that we did not expect. So that's one of the many issues. And of course, then another thing, when we were starting, or the team was starting, was also kind of look out, okay, what else is there that we can upgrade or that affects us in similar ways. And that would be later on, we'll talk about the Connect to Express, but those are mostly, I could say, quick wins, not necessarily things that kind of push this, but also kind of fall into this. Why is there a major version break?
And also note that when there is a major version, there are chances that other things that might be breaking are used to be put effort into, like with this Connect to Express conversion. So better have one big change than having like these major changes constantly. And I know that from the forums, many people responded to us that that's what they loved about Meteor, that there is not every half a year a major breaking change, and people could actually work with a stable API. So we hope that's in part of this philosophy.
Yes. So now we are moving kind of, what does all of this means? As we've kind of hinted on, Fibers is kind of the core of Meteor, so the impact is going to be severe, at least kind of, I would say, like on the API service level, at least the ones that are the most used and most popular. And we have prepared for you, let's move this a little bit here, like this, quick, could say, overview of one of the major, if not the major change, which is how it impacts database calls. I mentioned already MongoDB version 7. You have to be, or Fibers, it's no longer Fibers compatible, at least when it comes to the driver. So that means all of the MongoDB, or pretty much anything that touches the database, MongoDB is affected and needs to be migrated to async. And Jan, I took shamelessly from your article about this, the table that you have created there, with one change, which is to the count function, because you actually have double deprecations there. You have count async still works, but that's deprecated by MongoDB itself. So you have two options, either to go to count documents or estimate document count. Each has a little bit different uses. So I'm just pointing that out. But for the rest, you will see is that starting with Meteor 2.8, there is this change from just having like, insert update. It's like insert async, update async. And that allows you to have these functions or access them via async await calls. And that way kind of prepare for the upgrade. Anything else from you on this particular?
I was just cross-checking again the document if there are any other methods affected, and I think these are the most popular or the most common ones in use, but there are actually much more, like create capped collection and things. And it might be good. We will refer to the upgrade guide. I just want to leave it here that these are the most famous or most popular ones, but there are also some more methods that are affected, of course.
Yeah, I have always provide a general kind of guide. If it touches or if it's anything related to the database, it is affected because of this change. So, if you have that, so that's kind of like the first thing and probably the most important thing that you need to change. Anything that touches the database, you most likely have to migrate that to the new async functions. So, what does that mean for everything else, Jan?
Yes, I mean, only that was only the database calls, but this also have implications, of course, to the rest of the ecosystem. The backend is usually heavily relied on using database calls, which also means in turn that if you do any database calls in any method, it needs to be an async method, and this has implications on where this method exists. If this is a Meteor method, then of course your Meteor method needs to be also async by design. And if it's part of a publication, then it might be the case. That depends on if you only use if you only use find the collection.find, then it might not be the case. But if you need to fetch some documents in before, and there is a fetch or a count, not count async, but the other cursor functions involved, then you definitely need to make this function async as well. And of course, there are also other parts involved, like Meteor call and Meteor call async, which are now the Meteor call async is now the current call pattern. Although I don't know, I've seen a recent talk on some GitHub issue. Jan, do you know about that? That something is missing there?
Yes. So what this means primarily, if that's what you're referencing to, that you can no longer have callbacks, of course, in async. So you use .then and .finally or .error and all that stuff. But there has been recently a discussion to actually get the callbacks functionality back in some way. That is still kind of in the phases of discussions, and that's also one big thing to kind of remember during this entire thing. I'm not sure if I mentioned this, that right now we are in the alpha releases of Meteor 3.0, so things might still change. We are kind of covering here most of things that are not going to change, and we'll also be covering some things that we, I think, will most likely make it all the way. So there is one of these discussions that right now ongoing, that there might be some option to kind of add the callbacks in, which will help you in migrations, because if the original method calls with callbacks are still fine, or still work as with the same API, then it will of course ease the migration and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm. And furthermore, there are also some kind of these special environments.
Jan, just before you go to that, I also kind of want to mention and kind of direct everybody to the migration guide, especially for version 2.8, which first introduced the asyncs. And there are actually also some caveats of currently using it. Let me quickly find that. Yes, over here, here is the new call async, and then they talk about a limitation, especially if you kind of have like the standard call, then you have to call async, how you can how you can mix it, or in this case, not mix it, so that everything works as it should. Mm-hmm. But back to your special environments.
I mean, they are not so special, but I think they are much less used or widespread than the ones we talked before. These are like things like Meteor bind environment, Meteor wrap async, and Meteor defer. And these are all things we will have to consider if there is something to be updated, especially when inside these functions are async functionality, async calls necessary to. So there might be changes to these, but also some of these might be dropped at all, because Meteor Wrap Async, for example, was introduced at a time when we weren't be able to use all to make everything async as we wanted to, and there are some third-party libraries relying on callbacks. But nowadays there are easy methods to do that, and sometimes they're even running on a custom way of callback system. Not every callback is like our response style, so you have to check on these on your own. I will in the future check on my projects if there is a nice or interesting use case involving these functions, then we might cover them definitely in dev here as well.
All right, and I think all of these sections that we have going forward, let me just quickly jump here. We always end up with what is the impact on projects and packages. In short, pretty much every package that uses, this also goes to the projects, touches database in any shape or form, or like fibers functions is affected, and they will have to change. And a lot of the, because also a lot of the internals are changed. This does not just affect the database function, but if you kind of can guess from that, since accounts are all database related, a lot of the accounts functions will now move to async. Same thing, for example, with the email function and many more. So pretty much all of the packages that are impacted by this fiber change will have to make a revision. And currently the approach, at least that we have in commit packages, is that we are kind of mirroring what Meteor Core is doing. So introduce the async method for the public API. Internally, if we can change it straight to async, we just go. But so we have this duplicit function so that people can migrate more easily and kind of get ready. And then another big thing. This is
before we go to next. What I think here is important to mention when packages are affected. There are these packages out there especially from the a bit older times, that work like these auto drop-in everything out of the box auto magically things, and they were often backed by databases or by collections. They were created and then updated by the packages, and everything handled internally. And if you don't have access to the package, or it's like not maintained anymore, then this is a critical thing here, because this package will not work anymore the way it was supposed to work. And there might be the chance that you will have to fork it or clone it and locally maintain it. But especially, I just want to say, these packages are most affected, and sometimes these are also a little bit older ones.
Yeah, I'll cover that more in detail in one of the later sections where I'll get on my pedestal about old packages. But another big thing to also consider with this, and this will be primarily, or actually, I think the section we have here is more suited for the Node update itself. So I think we'll talk about the deployment's impact once we get to Node there. So it looks like Jan has nope, still nothing.
False alarm yet, sorry.
Okay, so I'll talk about how it will have impact on deployments when we actually go to the Node update, because I just realized that's more appropriate in that section. So the next thing that we have going here is, and I would call this more of a opportunistic update that came to be, is the upgrade from Connect to Express. And you're asking, like, what the hell is Connect? What the hell is Express? If you've kind of been only in the Meteor bubble, you might not even know, but Connect and Express are Node.js, say server or server router. It pretty much is the web app package. So if you ever worked with the web app package and needed server routes, that has been handled by Connect. And Connect is a slimmed down, simpler, and at that point also faster version of Express. Express is more feature rich, and Express is kind of like the de facto server environment to go to, and router. So the opportunity here was taken to upgrade to Express, and that's primarily, as we kind of see, or as we'll see, is that Connect has not been, or has kind of been deprecated, and there are no updates expected, and Express is still actively maintained. So that's the kind of background for this. For compatibility means, so Connect and Express API are almost identical, I would say, at least for what's being upgraded here. But if you are having like your own middlewares, or specifically if you tie up into the Connect handlers, so web app.connect handlers and stuff like that, that's going to affect you. Primarily, you will have to rename from Connect handlers to Express handlers, but there is also backward compatibility PR, so you don't have to do that, at least for a while, because it's the Connect handlers will just route to Express handlers. And I would say in most cases, the middlewares for that will work just fine, but it still is something that you will have to check out if the middlewares are working properly, if the update has affected you in any way. You can usually go, if it's like a package, you can usually go to the Connect to the middleware documentation. There you can check what is the compatibility with Connect or Express. Usually we'll just find that Express is there, and you don't have to worry about anything else. Speaking of impact on packages and projects, as I mentioned, you have to check your middlewares. If you have some specific custom functions, again, I think most of the times you should be fine, but still definitely check it out, make sure that it's working. How it's going to affect packages, there's I would say relatively few packages that deal with the server-side routing and all that stuff. But for example, the official browser policy packages are affected and need to change. And in our community, there's the package picker, which provides, kind of was built to add functionality that Connect was lacking when it comes to server-side routing. And in this case, picker will no longer be necessary, because Express has the routing that picker was kind of adding in there. So might actually slim down some of your dependencies. So that's quite a benefit of that.
I think Meteor files is a very widespread package that's also affected, but I know that this will be handled. There will be someone working on, I know for sure.
All right. So that brings us to our next topic.
Yeah. So the tracker is basically the backbone of the client-side reactivity in Meteor. May it be Blaze, but it also counts partially for React. And although for React there is now a much more improved API on the table than it has been before. If you don't know about that, you should check out the blog articles on signals. And but for the tracker, it's worthy to note that you can now also use async function as a callback. but you can't use it directly. You can't just pass in an async function and it will trigger the reactivity. So you have to use a little bit of a helper here, the with computation helper that was introduced in Meteor 2.10. And it is some kind of an effort if you use Tracker a lot. And if your Blaze use it, then lots of stuff might be affected. That depends on where you're using it and how you're using it. And we might cover that combined in a Blaze Tracker session on its own. But
Yes.
consider that it's somehow needs to be changed.
Yes, we'll talk more about Blaze later on, and we'll also have a panel discussion from, say, important people in the Blaze community, and a dedicated deep dive later on. That one is pretty much given because Blaze will see, thanks to Tracker, quite significant changes. But before we move to next, we have a question from Daniel. So, Jan, if you can take a look and tell us, or maybe get a link. So the question is, React signals, doesn't it also use Tracker in the background?
So sorry, I talked wrong. I didn't say, I said signals. I wanted to say suspense hooks. So suspense API goes with S, and I'm not too deep into React. Sorry, that was on my
that's kind of my part, and I guess I will cover it once we get there. So that's coming up later on towards the end when we talk about the different parts. So now let's talk about the big gorilla in the room. Because as we mentioned beginning, it's, since fibers have been deprecated in Node 16, which means we are upgrading Node, and without also NPM, which NPM also had some few breaking changes themselves and additions. So we are moving to, it's up till probably 2 weeks ago, it was Node 18. Now we are all the way up to Node 20, the latest node available. And so just to kind of give you an idea where we are, currently Meteor is using Node 14. We have a special version that's maintained by Meteor software guys, which has some of the latest security updates. But as you can see on this Node lifecycle, which I just took, I think yesterday, this picture, Node 14 is not even here, which means it's unmaintained. It's, no longer used. So there's kind of been a big push to move towards Node 18, or in this case now 20. And that meant kind of pushing through the fibers issue. With Node.js 20, it's supported until April 30th, 2026. So that's this big line. So that gives us a lot of time to then do other upgrades and all that stuff. One of the big things is that is, of course, a lot of additions to the API and changes. The V8 engine, of course, has updates, security updates. With NPM, we also get the latest options to use the latest packages. Because, for example, in one of my applications, I have issues with getting some of the packages I need because they use different import-export schema than we have currently supported in Meteor. So that's what we have there going. We'll probably have also a deep dive just to cover what's the difference between Node 16 and Node 20. But these, I think, are kind of the big three things for me in this section. And anything for your thoughts on this? Mike? You're muted, Jan.
Sorry, I misclicked. From my end, there's only from what I see is that we are still in this situation where we should all discuss this as a community, as the group of developers together with the Meteor software core team. What's actually the best strategy here we want to have for all of us, because we also have to keep in mind that when we talk about major changes, then we also have to think about that being on a tight schedule with the node life cycle means also being on a tight schedule when the node life cycle introduces breaking changes that will affect us as well. So this is also something to consider here, and there might never be the 100% best solution, optimal outcome for everyone. So this is something where we need impressions and opinions and experiences from everyone, I think.
Yes, and recently we are actually on our last dispatches podcast with our discussion about the release cycle. Once we have Meteor 3 out, if we should follow the Node.js release cycle, which kind of is the proposal, given how closely we are tied together, and how we should do that. So there's discussion on the forums, and one of the big benefits that what we'll get from upgrading here, of course, is as we cover more in the next section about performance. One of them, but the other one, which I've kind of shoved earlier, is deployments. Since we'll be on the latest Node version, npm version, if you are hosting outside of Galaxy, then it will affect you because you'll have to upgrade your Docker images, or Meteor app will have to be updated. But at the same time, once you do that, there won't be any issues in terms of of your hosting, being unhappy that you are using old npm version that's no longer supported and all that stuff. So that's there.
Sorry.
Apologies. I had some people from MeteorJS were messaging me. Okay, never mind. It's not related to this. So I'm not saying anything wrong, hopefully. So that should be one big benefit in that area. It should also make it easier to deploy because you don't have to take into account I'm using this old version that's past its end of life, all that stuff.
I see also benefits for CI here, because there might be definitely speedups in the CI, or not only speedups but also compatibility. It's already crossing some of this build time and performance section, but I think it's still on compatibility, because currently we have the situation that you're on a CI installing a certain Node version, but also at the same time downloading a certain Meteor version, and then we have the thing that this is sometimes, even if it's cached, it's just unnecessary to have these two together, and the more close we are to the node lifecycle, the better we could find a solution to have only one node version pinning and then using one of them in the CI. Same as for npm. Installing from npm currently uses an old version of npm log file, for example, which first have to be converted by the newer npm used in the CI. So this is also some kind of a thing that might benefit from it.
Yeah. So speaking of build time and performance, will benefit, of course, from all the build time and performance improvement done by Node and npm. In the Node side, it's mostly around the latest V8 engines, and lately, I would say partially thanks to Bando.js, the Node team, or actually even before that, they started like a specific performance team. So they are moving more towards improving performance and all that stuff. NPM itself has also gotten a lot of performance improvements. And one of the articles I saw about it argued it was thanks to Yarn, because Yarn put pressure on the NPM team to move more on the performance aspects as well. So that, of course, npm still remains the predominant package manager. Another big thing I think is also going to be a removal of the or some of the legacy code, which oftentimes you have to account for. So that will also help a little bit when it comes to the improvements. We also saw already a few pull request merges from Zodern and other people in regards to hot module reload and performance-wise as well. And there's currently discussions on the forum in updating some of the Babel settings, and when it comes to build time, to kind of have more of the more modern set, because I think last time this has been done in any significant way was in 2015 or 2016. So it's pretty aged, and then it was just kind of to use all that stuff that's kind of been since then, which means a lot of polyfills and all that stuff. A lot of the polyfills are going to go away because of the new Node version as well. So that's going to speed up things, because instead of having to constantly import and use polyfills, we'll just use the native implementation, and that will definitely help as well.
Plus, once the release is done, the Meteor software team and the core contributors might have much more time to focus again on things like tree shaking, which is also one of the hot awaited features here, which might just have to wait a little longer. But I think this is also something we all expect as well, when it comes to at least performance in terms of bundle size to the client. And but it's not actually part of the 3.0, but it's just a little teaser to you to get know it's just getting better each step by each step.
Okay, just a reminder for everybody, if you have any questions or specific topic or something that we forgot to mention, just let us know. Again, a reminder, this is just a surface level overview, just highlighting the important things that you need to look into. We are already almost 40 minutes in just covering it. So we'll have, as we've promised, we'll have future episodes getting more in deep on each of these sections as well, or specific topics. And our next topics is security. Yeah. So we've already mentioned it, and that's kind of a lot of the things are interconnected. Node 14 is already past its end of life. We have promised from the Meteor software team to maintain a special fork that has security updates till the end of the year. So in that way, currently, I would say the security is not a problem, but that's one of the main reasons why we need to upgrade once Meteor 3.0 comes out, do it as soon as possible to get to the newest version, to have all the security issues or security issues that were found addressed. Personally, I don't think there is going to be that much of window for support for Meteor 2.x. I think there's going to be security issues that are found that's going to probably get a patch, all that stuff, but the pressure is definitely going to be on to move to 3.0 or 3.x as soon as possible. And with that, kind of brings me to kind of related issue with security which are packages. And this goes both for NPM and Atmosphere packages. A lot of people just before this podcast, there was somebody posting on the forum asking if Iron Router is going to get updated for Meteor 3.0. And Iron Router, I think, had last update 6 years ago, and since then has been actually there has been Meteor software had made an update due to breaking change in it for version 2.3, if I remember correctly. So that was done, but there's no guarantee that's going to continue. So this should be a big wake-up call for all of you, especially if you have older applications or if you made older packages to do an audit to see, okay, which packages are supported and updated, which one are likely to get updated or not, and kind of check out that and see if you can migrate to some version, or if you will have probably roll your own version. I can say that, for example, all of my packages, Meteor community packages, are going to get updated, or in case like Picker, they will be deprecated, and there is going to actually be a clear path to upgrade. Most likely, in case of Picker, we'll just probably do a compatibility where we just direct everything straight to Express. So that's still in the future. It might also take us some time to get that. So if you can help us with that, that would be very much appreciated. And again, I kind of will be here a little bit on a pedestal. Apologies, but I think this kind of highlights with always, especially how long you do that. Please keep updated, and especially for security and long-term maintainability. Whenever there's option to upgrade, take it. So, and especially if you have, like here we have with Meteor 3, that you can prepare your updates before 3.0 hits, so that when 3.0 hits, you only have to change the last remaining async that were not possible to do in 2.x. So that's for that.
Yeah, there's one more thing to mention here regarding these unmaintained packages. So we will definitely cover also some examples of packages that are basically abandoned but might still be around. Something like Iron Router, I don't know. That will be something we decide in the future. But it should be something for you to see how you could tackle on that. But see this also as a chance. I know from experience, many older packages are still using highly outdated development concepts and pattern, defining global variables, open to prototype pollution, things that are also considered security vulnerabilities or security related issues. And if you have the chance to get rid of these packages, find a better alternative, or update them yourself, then consider this as a chance to also be on the safe side, because we're currently in the security section. And with that, let's get to the next one.
To this as well. Once the Meteor 3.0 update happens, I think there will be no more excuse for not updating something or not using the latest industry standards when it comes to security, because we'll be completely up to date. So that's also something to consider in that aspect. And I think as we are kind of preparing to move to the next section, there is a few things. Let's start actually with this comment and from Paul on packages. I think the community doesn't understand that community is us. I expect the forum will fill with messages like, hey guys, when do you update this package for me? And yeah, nailed it. Absolutely nailed it. And it kind of continuously, I think it should be very clear that companies and even individuals should offer bounties if they need something. And for that, I think I'm just going to do some shilling. If you like what we do, we both have sponsor pages on GitHub. So please, if you like what we do, want to do us more, and want to kind of help or want us to get more of the package added quickly, send us some few coffees or whatever you feel appropriate. And at least in my case, I will be making announcement later today of some new changes in addition to my sponsorship program, so you get more benefits for that.
I also answered to that right now that I think it's also a feasible approach that we already in advance, or like by the time the update comes, collect which are packages that are still highly used but also outdated, and then we could think about, for example, moving them to the community packages, or even go further. It depends on what package, of course, and decide what we will do with it. And yeah, as it said, we are the community, and we all should find a solution together. So let's get on the table together and build a strategy for that. I think that's definitely something we should focus on in the next month.
Absolutely. At the same time, guys, we have also other work. We are not doing this full time or even part time. So if you can help us, we would highly appreciate it. Also, but also don't expect us that it's suddenly going to happen overnight. It's usually going to happen in spikes of activities. At least that's my case, and I will have, starting this upcoming Monday, my own could say podcast every Monday, so you can go in there and harass me to do something, and that's probably one of the good ways to do it, because then I have content to work on there. So expect that there might be just like week of inactivity, and then like suddenly on Saturday there is a lot of things happening, and then again week or two nothing. It's just the realities of people working on this in their free time.
I would also add to that, I also got into a regular publishing cycle now. So every month there will be one article from me covering important topics about Meteor, with currently focusing, of course, on the migration topics. So if there is anything you think it needs much more focus on, needs very detailed explanation, or needs to be written down especially, then please let me know. You can reach out to me on Slack in the forums here on the streams, and then I will also try to get my head into it and write these topics down. Yeah.
Absolutely. With that, so let's go more into the meat of this. As you can see, this is quite a contentious topic, packages and version. We have currently an ongoing discussion. How do we display the support for 3.0? How do we do that? Specifically like for Atmosphere. And right now we don't have, I would say, any specific conclusions yet. Part of it is because Atmosphere is not open source, so that will have to come from the Meteor software guys to kind of guide us how to do that. And we have kind of different suggestions on the forums on that topic, and I will be kind of monitoring and contributing that discussion as things develop. I think kind of the first thing that we'll see is that it will show in the READMEs if there is a support or not. Right now, since we're still in alphas, there are a few packages from the community that support the alpha, but that's probably again for my stream to go in and publish new versions to do that, and that will kind of go as we slowly move towards the release candidates. Especially once we hit the release candidates, that is when you should expect more packages really getting stuff ready, because one of the first hurdle is, since it's a major version update, it needs to have a specific version in the API.versions from in the package.js, which is right here. How can package support version 2 and 3 if the API is going to change in version 3 later? So we have, it really depends on the package. I'll take the example of roles package. We just recently added the async versions of all the functions there. So that's how, at least initially, it's going to get supported. So again, it's like the Meteor 2.8 plus approach, where you create this async version. And then, of course, you need to add in the proper 3.0 alpha or beta, or where we are when you're listening to this, into the package.js. And that way, you can both support the current and the new ones. The problem if you install it on Meteor 3 and try to call the old fibers functions, synchronous functions, then it's of course not going to break. But if you call the async versions, then it should be fine. So that is then, so I can switch both back and forward, and eventually we are going to have a major release where we'll get rid of the synchronous or the fibers versions of the code, and so that way you can just have the Meteor 3 supported version. There won't be two packages. It will be just different version of the package, and we see that a lot of the times in NPM ecosystem, which says this, version 3 supports Node 14, version 4 supports Node 16, and so on. So that's how it's going to be, at least for the roles package, and I think for many others. So, but if I call meteor.user async in my plugin, how it will work both in version 2 and version 3. So first of all, there's probably if you are doing completely to the async versions, then you will have to kind of have there a check for if it's at least Meteor 2.8 or whenever that specific async function was introduced. And so that's actually, for example, how we have done it. Let me see if I can pull up some nice example. We've done that, for example, when we have the new, because there has been quite a bit of work with the indexes. There have been first, I think it started as underscore ensure index, then it was underscore create index, and just without the underscore thing. Let me see if I can find some nice example. Could that be? I think. Just give me a moment. So that's okay. So what you have is if in this case collection dot create index exists, then you have the new API for that, or then if you have else and it's the old API because of Meteor backward compatibility. Even if there's some issue and still goes to the old API, it will still work. With 3.0 upgrade, it will be a bit different, because then you will have kind of hard cutoff for the old. And even though for example, as we showed earlier, the different MongoDB calls will still kind of remain there, update, all that stuff, they will now be asynchronous. So we will go more into that at some later point as well, but I don't think it's that big of a deal, and I think we've already managed that pretty well elsewhere. So now back on track. Kind of as I mentioned previously, we have the API.versions from, and that will be kind of the first where we work at. And I think for many packages, even if they won't be compatible with Meteor 3 fully, they're still going to add in the versions for the Meteor 3, and that is just to enable you to test if you can even update. Because now if you try to update to Meteor 3, probably the first thing that you are going to get, unless you are like a clean install, is going to get a lot of version conflicts because the old or the packages that are not ready for Meteor 3 will kind of point, we want the old kind of version, like from the account score or something like that. But Meteor itself is now pushing only has the one major version app version. So for example, package will want account score 2, but Meteor 3 has account score 3. And that's a major version conflict, and it won't allow you to kind of go through it unless you address that and unless there's the compatibility set for those packages. So that will be kind of the first step that you will have to overcome, and that will also kind of tell you which packages are updated or not. You will probably have to kind of, and that's why I previously mentioned, to do an audit, you will have to go package by package and do things a little bit more manually than you are used to. And speaking of manually, that means usually cloning them, cloning these packages locally, updating the API.versions from to have the 3.0, or you will have to manually upgrade those packages to the next major version. I suspect most packages, unless they just decide to do a major release immediately, are going to have a few versions where they have both support for 2.x and some 3.0 alpha or whatever in between there. Anything I'm missing here, Jan?
Regarding packages, I think we will find still things that will be missing when we going deeper into the packages, because this is one of the biggest topics in this whole migration effort, I think, or this is where most people will run into anything we can imagine. But I think we're good with packages. I think we could also talk about the front ends, because these are still the topics that are not covered yet. So, Meteor supports many front ends, and migration is with multiple front ends a very hard to tackle task. And this is why we came up with the current focus on covering definitely React and Blaze, because these are the most widespread front ends used within the Meteor community. At least that's what we found during most of the surveys, not only our internal surveys, but also the one from Daniel Donhart, which has been with which results came in recently. And of course, there are also other frameworks like Vue, Svelte, Solid, and also these meta settings like using Tailwind, using Chakra UI, and of course TypeScript, which is also a big thing. I think for these, it depends. For the front ends, it depends on what the community needs, what the community wants, also where the pressure is. I think the biggest pressure is definitely on React and Blaze to see what's the changes here. And if there's something we might have to focus, we will also see what the community says, what's rather necessary, right? So if you think we should cover a certain topic in regards of the front ends, you think this is super important, reach out to us and we take a look into it and may consider it for the deep dive.
Yes, we'll definitely cover Blaze, because in case of Blaze, there is going to be a major version update to add all the async stuff and everything else. So that's definitely going to be, we'll have, as I mentioned previously, first we have a panel coming up. I just need to write probably today to people to schedule the exact date. And then we will have probably a few weeks after that, once we have more probably merge into the Blaze 3.0 branch. We'll have a deep dive on that, or that will probably, Jan, be your thing, because I am more of a React guy. In case of React, there is already, I think they're mostly there, at least when it comes to the hooks or data hooks, because we now have suspense added to it. So if you have the imports and you do slash suspense at the end, it will change to suspense. They work a bit differently. So check out the Meteor React data packages documentation that describes all of that. So, and that should be kind of ready for forward. And I think even like maybe the origin, but I'll have to double check on that. For the other front ends, what will have to be updated is pretty much, let's just call it the data hooks that get the data from Meteor server and get it to your front ends. So, and that would be because they are most likely using Tracker. So that's where this is going. So anything else on front ends? So in that case, I am going to switch things around and kind of give you here what you should guys look for to get started with migration. First of all, right now, you want to be, of course, on the latest Meteor. If you cannot, you want to be at least on Meteor 2.8, because that is where the migration begins, or that's where you can start preparing for Meteor 3.0. And that is because migration, or like what you will see in the guide, starting with the 2.8 migration, is that they introduce the first, as you can see here, async functions when it comes to database. And we've kind of also hinted on that previously when we've discussed the call async. So that's what we have here. Of course, with every new version of Meteor, there are some changes to that. So here we have email send async, user async, that's Meteor 2.9. Let's see, do we have anything? And some internal functions as well. And this is especially if you are if you have an OAuth package, then now it accepts async functions, and the things called in there also can be asyncs. So all that stuff, there is few breaking changes due to the asynchronicity. In 2.10, we got the async tracker, so you could start using async functions in tracker. And 2.11, that was, I think, primarily new MongoDB. Let me just quickly scroll here. Yes, that was a MongoDB release, so nothing specifically in regards to Meteor 3. But of course, you should check here for removed operators, and that's because of MongoDB itself. So that's that. 2.12 added this, let's say, function or like variable that you can add before the Meteor run command, warn when using alt API. Right now, or at that time, it's still very difficult to use because of packages are going to, or it's going to, scream because of all the packages that use the old API. And second, there are still quite a few internal, calls that still are using the old API, which is decreasing with every version. But it's one of the tools that you can use to kind of get an idea where you still need to fix things. So that's very useful in Meteor 2.12. And here we have 2.13. I don't think that had anything new as looking at this, so that's fine. In 2.14, we'll have a few more async functions. Or if you want to really go hardcore and see all that, you can go, of course, to the pull request for Meteor 3 and go into the changelog being prepared, which lists all of the functions that will suddenly turn async overnight there. So it will be a couple of those that are remaining. And if we scroll down here, we also have almost at the end, I believe. Yes, here we have all the Mongo functions.
Yeah.
And it also has here very useful, it tells you which version of Meteor these were originally introduced so that you could migrate to them.
If you can't find this document, this is also linked in the how to migrate to Meteor async in Meteor 2.x guide. And
I've just posted it in the chat, so if you want to copy that as well.
Yeah.
And then, if you want to, there's also this what's left, until an official Meteor 3.0 version, and that has specific links to the docs, discussions, and so on. I believe this is what's left until an official Meteor 3.0. Here you have a list of all the stuff that's being worked on. So you have the Blaze stuff. You can see if somebody's working on it or not. Then you have what still remains until the beta is finished. So it just looks like mostly like a review. So looks like we can expect beta started soon, and already somebody's working on some issues in the beta itself. So it looks like still a lot of stuff. Probably it's going to increase as we discuss or as we find bugs, found new issues that we haven't thought before. But it's being worked on. I think especially in this, it's very transparent and easy to find. We'll have to get something more on that. We have I think right now 2 dashboards in the community packages for related stuff. So we'll have just to probably centralize it better and improve that, so that people know what's on. But as I said, please give us some time to figure out the proper way, and really don't expect, I would say, frantic activity until we reach the release candidate stages, where things and the API are more stable, and at least when it comes to packages, all that stuff. So Jan, anything else that you want to mention in this grand overview?
Yes. Again, I already peeked it a little bit, but please, again, if there is something you think is still not covered or it's not covered enough, you think that we should put it on the list, is worthwhile for definitely being part of the deep dive, please let us know. Reach out to us on the Slack, in the Discord, in the forums, or leave a comment at YouTube. This gives us direction what other people need, because we can only estimate things from our view, from how we view the things, but the more people engage, the more we can align the content with what people want.
Okay, I think kind of covered everything. Again, if you like what we do, would like to see more, would like to support us in our efforts to get the community packages up to date, please consider sponsoring us on GitHub. And we'll just give you a few more moments to write any last comments or goodbyes or whatever you want, because I think that's it for now. As mentioned before, we'll have a Blaze panel coming up, followed a few weeks later by in-depth or more wrote in this series, Blaze, and we'll be also covering all the other issues relatively. Let us also please know in the comments what would you like us to cover first. And with that, here we have a question. Hi everybody, what about adding shortened aliases to the new async API? Things like find1a, .count a, etc. I think we already have established the pattern with async, doing more of that, especially if it's like if you are just removing 3 characters.
I think this is also discussed at a few times here. I mean, we can pick it up in the dispatches stream again, because I already mentioned that topic as well. I was one of the people who said like, oh, could we drop the async in the naming once everything is async and so on, but it's not as easy as that. So it's a little bit more complicated, and we might pick this up again as a little discussion. I think there are many inputs and things to consider here for that.
All right, we just request from Daniel, which we'll be looking at some later individually. Okay, thank you again very much. Please like, share, subscribe, share this, because it's important that you share this. That's how we get traction. Consider sponsoring us if you like what we are doing. And with that, I'll be clicking the big red button ending the stream. See you next time.
Yep, see you next time.